outside Maponya Mall in Soweto, south of Johannesburg. Veronica, the scene a little bit more quiet this morning, but certainly a bit of fear perhaps for some of the community members.
Certainly, Arabile. In fact, you'd know that the remnants of last night's violence are still really scattered across the road here at the entrance of Maponya Mall. And you can still see, of course, where that torching took place, the two vehicles, one of them with its driver inside, where there was satellite, and turning really just an ordinary evening commute into chaos over here. The smell as well of that burnt rubber still hangs in the air, and police continue to monitor the entrances of this landmark in Soweto. We also are aware of the fact that the gates at some point have had to be closed. And we're seeing some movement inside, but also some of the vehicles that were leaving. But the reality is, for some of the residents here in Soweto, and following, of course, the violence and the attack we saw yesterday, that requesting e-hailing services has somewhat become a life or death situation. We would remember, of course, that in the violence, there was also another driver that is currently being treated for those gunshot wounds, as well as a passerby who was caught in that gunfire. But the reality as well for some of the community members here is that they are insisting that this mall should not operate today, despite the fact that we're seeing some movement taking place. And I'm going to talk to actually just some of the community members who have now come out this morning to only not just vent their anger, their frustration, but to speak on the real concerns of safety in this community. Ntate, thank you so much for your time. Just talk to us as a community. You've come out last night, you're back here again, and you're insisting on the call that this mall will not operate today.
No, look, we're not obsessed with, shutting down Maponya Mall or making sure that business is not continuing. Our obsession is to make sure that, people's lives are safe and people's, services that they render, in this mall are secured and, are catered for. But now what we are met with here is, utter arrogance. And, you can see that there's a lack of tolerance from the side of the management. You can see with the display of, police force that they've, distributed from private security, JMPD and the SAPS, meaning that they are not willing to, engage with the community members. Because when something like this has happened, there's a crisis, and when instead of coming down to the people that you are servicing, you choose to, send out, different private security companies to come and make sure that there is business taking place. So now Maponya Mall must understand that the will of the people will always come out on top, and we're going to make sure that until they communicate with us, the community is still gathering, as you can see. We're still gathering community members to demand accountability and to make sure that, justice is served for the people that, have lost their lives at the scene, for the people that, one of the e-hailing drivers' car was taken here by the people who were shooting. We are not making allegations that who is involved in this, but we are simply saying the management of the mall must get to the bottom of this, because this is the second time we emphasize. It's the second time such an incident takes place. And if the management of the mall chooses to look away when such things are happening, then we definitely cannot allow them to continue with business as usual, because we want to guarantee the safety of community members, want to guarantee the safety of people that are rendering services at this particular mall. So as the community, we are gathering here to make sure that we close until we have a sit down with the management of the mall. Our obsession is not to disrupt. We buy here, man, like we support this mall. It is here because of the community members that you are seeing gathered here. So when such things are happening, it must be our concern to make sure that we sit to the bottom and we make sure that there is, a resolution on matters like this.
And it's a good point that you mentioned in regards to the services rendered. E-hailing services, we know that there's been a long issue, especially with taxi operators as well. Just as community members, the frustration of feeling as though you cannot use one service over another, and just of course as well the safety concerns of that. How does it feel knowing that requesting a service could honestly be between life and death for residents here?
No, definitely. I mean, we are being bullied. We're not being given, the opportunity to choose which services we would like. I mean, if you've come here on a month end and you've done a lot of groceries, you wouldn't want to take you know, a taxi that is going to drop you at the bus stop. You would want to take a car that is going to pick you up from the mall and drop you at your gate. You know, it's convenience. At the end of the day, people pay for convenience. So if people do, if there is, you know, people that do not want to allow that competition to take place in the industry. And by the way, it's not only e-hailing services that have been disrupted. There's also been Rea Vaya that was disrupted from, you know, and that is a public entity. It was also disrupted from, you know, rendering services to the community members of Pimville and Klipspruit. So that thing cannot be allowed. We demand also that the government, the MEC of Transport, the MMC of Transport also come and, you know, be part of this thing and resolve this mess.
All right. Well, thank you for your comment. Arabile, we're going to talk to another community member. You can see, as they've mentioned, that they continue to come, they are gathering, but the call continues that they feel as though the management of Maponya Mall has to answer to the violence that took place here.
Yes, as a community, we are standing here because of the injustice that is happening, the brutality that is happening. As a community, we're traumatized. We've invested in this mall as patrons of the community. However, we cannot be bullied and we cannot be treated unfairly as a community. As a community, our biggest challenge is that why is Maponya Mall allowing Fidelity to continue to be operating here in this mall? Because Fidelity is not an armed security. It's not highly armed because they are not, they're always reactive instead of being proactive. And this is the biggest challenge that you are having here in the community because as you can see, it's business as usual. There are multiple vans here from JMPD, guarding Maponya Mall, but where were they yesterday? And that's the biggest challenge. As a community, you need to understand that we have minors who are witnesses. We have minors who are witnesses. They are traumatized. We know what took place yesterday. The community saw at large. So right now we want to protect the lives of our community. We also, because we are in the forefront of guarding Maponya Mall, we've got interest as a community to fight for jobs, to fight for the good standing of the community, and just make sure that this monumental site, this economic site of Maponya Mall is properly running.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Arabile, you heard there from community members here, a community that has been left traumatized. That gunfire really showing just how, if this situation is not taken under control, can erupt to a far more dangerous situation. We heard yesterday as well from some of the officials that were on the ground that this issue has been raised over time to the various departments, which would of course include the transport department, and that conversations have been had. But you can see those conversations have not yielded any type of result as the situation still remains very volatile